Gracie Jiu-Jitsu rocks. Welcome to the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Rocks podcast, a podcast dedicated to Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and all things Gracie, including self-defense, competition, anti-bullying, women's self-defense and empowerment, nutrition, and most especially, the people involved in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. This podcast is for the average Joe. It's for anyone who practices, trains, teaches, or just loves to talk about or hear about Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. We'll explore the lives of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu practitioners, how they got involved in the art, and what effect it's had on their lives. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. Welcome to episode 72 of the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Rocks podcast. As always, I'm your host, Marty Josie, and thanks for listening. Okay, today after the martial arts quote, we're going to start off with a Meet the Listener segment, and then we'll do our interview. And by the way, today's guest will be Pedro Sauer black belt, Professor Jorge Jimenez. And then we'll go on to a short Make a Difference, Make an Impact segment. And today's guest host for that segment is Howard Steele. And Howard is back from Delaware Bushido Academy, and he's going to speak to us about the very important subject of self-talk. Okay, today's quote. "A tranquil man is tolerant. There's no reason for me to beat someone up if he calls me names. This confidence is moral, not physical." And that quote is from the late, great Grandmaster Helio Gracie. Okay, on this episode's Meet the Listener segment, we're going to be meeting Richard Baitlick. So let's meet Richard now. I'm speaking with Richard Baitlick, so welcome Richard, and how are you today?
I'm great, Marty. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Doing well. So Richard, if you would, just tell us where you're from and where you train.
I'm from Manassas, Virginia, and I currently train at Pedro Sauer School in Herndon, Virginia.
Awesome. So you do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well as Krav Maga, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I started in Krav January of 2016, and I decided, having Master Pedro Sauer School literally a mile from my Krav school, that there was no reason why I shouldn't try Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, especially after watching the video of Professor Sauer versus Mr. Utah back in the 90s. I said, I got to at least see this guy, right?
Right.
This guy is a living legend. I hardly knew anything about him, but I said, there's something about this guy. I got to go visit. And sure enough, visited the school and said, I need to start training here.
Awesome. So great that it worked out that you're so close to him. What would you say you like, or what do you enjoy the most about training there?
Well, I'm completely a beginner there, and I mostly do the Gracie combatives program. But my goal is to eventually transition. I've done some of the other classes, but my goal is to eventually transition into the full offerings of what's available at that school. And honestly, what's great about training there are the people. And it's clear that it starts with Professor Sauer and extends down. Everybody has his attitude. Everybody is respectful. There's such a community feeling at that school that I think probably a lot of people just take it for granted because, hey, this is the way it is here. But I've been in many other schools, not Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu schools, but many other styles and such. And the feeling that you get training there is just amazing. I mean, even say in Gracie combatives, we'll do the class, and then afterwards we go through and we, shake hands and all. Professor Sauer will just jump in the line and say, hey, good job. I watched you guys. You guys are doing great. And he didn't have to do that. He could have just been in his office. He didn't have to come out into the mat just for no reason. Right. So just little things like that really stand out.
Yeah, I can't say enough about Professor Sauer and the culture he sets, and I agree with you. I've been to all kinds of schools, different jiu-jitsu schools, different martial arts schools, and it always holds true that it's set from the top, the top down, and whatever kind of personality, what kind of belief system the head person has definitely shines through in the whole culture and everybody there. So,
yes.
So what about when you're not on the mat or training? Do you have any hobbies that you enjoy?
Well, I'm married, my beautiful wife Amy, and I have two daughters. So keeping up with all the kids' activities is a full-time job. I'm very active in cybersecurity for my day job. So I do a decent amount of that in the off time. And I also like to read, particularly military history. Being here in Virginia, we're basically at the center of the Civil War. So you can't walk a few feet without stumbling over some type of Civil War relic. So I like to read a lot about that.
Absolutely. What an interesting topic and subject. So what do you like most about listening to the podcast?
Well, I don't know if you've listened to lots of other podcasts, but you have a great interview style. You bring out a lot of interesting parts of different people's lives, and you have a great ability to, I think, connect with people, and the diversity of guests that you bring is great. And that's before you even get into the other little parts of the podcast, like the Make an Impact, Make a Difference, or the Quote of the Day, or other parts. So I listen to a lot of different martial arts podcasts, and having found yours now, I've just been binge listening to it starting about a month ago, and I'm about halfway through the corpus right now. I'm still working.
Nice. Well, thank you for being a listener. I appreciate it. Before we close, can you tell us about your blog?
Yeah, I started a blog for my own martial arts journey January of 2016. It's called Rejoining the Tao, or rejoiningthetao.blogspot.com. And it's just a way for me to keep track of things that I find interesting. I did the same thing back in 2003 with cybersecurity, and just posted whatever I thought was interesting to me that I didn't want to forget, and I decided to do the same thing with martial arts. So I started out really heavy with Krav Maga because that's what I was studying, but you'll see now recently I've started adding more BJJ content. For example, I went to a Henry Gracie seminar last month at a school up in Leesburg, and my God, what an amazing teacher that guy is. I mean, I'm going to be going to his seminar in a couple weeks up in Gaithersburg, Maryland. But any little bits I can pull out of those experiences, I try to put on the blog, and encourage people to take a look if they might be interested in that.
Awesome. I just recently checked it out, and I really like it. So if you're listening, check it out for sure. Richard, anybody you want to shout out to before we close?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank all of the training partners and instructors at Master Sauer School. You'll go in there and you'll take a class, and then you'll realize I just took a class with Dave Porter, and you go onto his YouTube channel and you see him, destroying people in a very kind way, in a very polite way, but he's just destroying people on the mats in competition. And to think that I just trained with that guy, that's amazing. So in some ways, there's I'm constantly trying to be grateful for what I have with this opportunity, and I'm glad that I was able to get back into martial arts again in my 40s.
Well, thank you for taking a minute to share a little bit of your life with us, and I really appreciate it. And thanks again for being a listener, Richard.
Yeah, thank you, Marty. Keep up great work for the podcast.
All right, thanks. Okay, thank you, Richard Baitlick, for doing that segment, and I really enjoyed meeting Richard. Okay, moving on now to our interview. Professor Jorge Jimenez is a third-degree black belt under Master Pedro Sauer. He owns Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Balance Academy in Sharpsburg, Georgia, which is a Pedro Sauer affiliate school, as well as a certified training center through the Gracie Academy. Jorge has been with Professor Sauer for many, many years, and he's a very well-respected black belt as well as a respected instructor. So I know you're going to enjoy this interview with Professor Jorge, so without further ado, let's meet him now. Okay, I'm speaking with Jorge Jimenez, third-degree Pedro Sauer black belt, and I have the distinct honor of being here live with him at his academy in Georgia, and just had a private with him, and just got to say how much I thoroughly enjoyed it. Just an awesome teacher, so thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me here, man. I'm a fan already, so I'm honored to be here and be part of this podcast.
Awesome. So I know we're just part of Master Sauer's recent camp in Atlanta, so let's just start off by you telling us a little bit about that, how that went, and what it was like being part of leading that.
Those camps get better and better. The format of asking questions, and Pedro Sauer is an incredible he's like a savant, a magician. His knowledge is so incredible that, people smile and laugh because of the detail of every single technique. And so, yeah, every time he comes to town, it's a treat. 3 days of just new stuff, new techniques. And if you are a jiu-jitsu junkie like I am, then that's just a treat. Anytime that you get a chance to learn new things, and even one little detail, one little grip, or one little hip movement that makes everything better, and that's what you get. Pedro Sauer, man, incredible.
Wow.
So.
And you were able to be part of leading some of that too as well, right?
Yeah, this time what we did and what we've done in the past is something that we started a long time ago. Alan Hopkins and I went to Arizona years and years ago, and what we decided to do was to break the room in half. One instructor would teach half, and the other instructor would teach the other half, and then the group would switch. And so that's what we did. On Saturday morning, Robin Clark taught half the group, and I taught half the group, and then the group switched. So yeah, it was great. It's a good time. Awesome. Always enjoy that. So
I know everybody enjoyed it. I always hear such great feedback about you as an instructor, and I certainly know it now, having just had the private. So let's back up a little bit, and Jorge, if you would, tell us how you got started in jiu-jitsu and how that journey kind of evolved for you.
Man, that was a great story. For me, I grew up in a place where you had to fight, and you fight and you get beat, or you beat the other guy, and then you're done with that. That's things that you did when you were young. But now, later on, I was not really looking for martial arts. It just so happens that I had this friend who dropped a tape. He goes, "Man, you got to watch this tape." This is in 1993. And, okay, so I put the tape on, and it's this black and white, grainy. It was a copy of a copy of a copy. And I played it for like 4 seconds. And I immediately turned it off. It's like, man, I'm not going to waste my time. So I just took it out, and I left it there. And for weeks, it sat there. And about 3 weeks later, my friend Dave Suliafu, who's this guy, he calls me, and it's like, "Hey, man, I'm going to pick up that tape." And I'm like, "Okay, man, come get it, And when I hung up, I thought, man, this guy's going to start asking me about, did I watch the tape? What did I think of it? And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put it on while I wait, just so I can tell him more or less what I liked. So I started watching this tape, and it happened to be Gracie in Action 1. And I'm watching this tape, and I'm getting more and more excited. And when he finally comes in, I don't know if you ever noticed that now I'm completely excited. I'm like, man, what is this? This is amazing. And this is what he said. He said, "I'm going there right now. You want to come?" And I'm like, "Let's do it." So from the time when I found out that there's such thing called Gracie Jiu-Jitsu to when I met Pedro Sauer and I took my first class, it's probably less than an hour.
Wow.
And that night, I went through a lesson. I don't remember the lesson, but I do remember that afterwards he paired me up with this blue belt named Laura. And Laura was about 105 pounds. And the beating I took that day just changed my life. I mean, it changed the course of my life from then on.
Wow.
So, yeah. So imagine that. I wasn't even looking for it. It just landed on me. And now it became my life. It became what I do. When I wake up in the morning, I'm thinking jiu-jitsu. I'm thinking, because now I do it for a living. So now it's my life, man. So
wow.
That's how
great.
it started.
So you weren't looking for it, and yet within an hour of being exposed to it, and it was right up the street, right?
Right up the street. I technically could walk from my house to the. It was I think it's a junior high school, and it was the little wrestling room that they had, and that's where the classes were held.
Wow. That's what you call fate, my friend.
Yep.
That
was the early summer of 1993.
Wow.
So awesome. A few years ago.
So how did the journey evolve from there for you? You started there, and is that where you continued for many years?
Yeah, I started there, and what happens is I became really close with the guys. These guys became my friends. These guys became my family. And so not only would we train together, but we would socialize. We would go get in trouble afterwards. We would go to restaurants. We would go take trips. We go to Vegas, or, hey, let's go to LA and compete. We actually went to the very first UFC. So we got all the information, and we went to Denver, Colorado, and imagine I'm a white belt. I have the pictures there so you can see them. But 3 months into training, I'm on the mat with Helio Gracie, with Helson, with Fabio Santos, of course, with my instructor, Pedro Sauer. And then, we met Hickson, we met Horion, I met Jim Brown. I didn't meet Hoyes because Hoyes was in game, he was getting ready for the fight, and he was really focused, and he wasn't talking to anyone. But imagine that, man, it was a great experience.
Wow.
And that was the idea, that group of people. Alan Hopkins was part of that, Jake Johnston was part of that. Sean Weaver, rest in peace, was part of that. All these guys, man, we had nothing better to do than train and to socialize. I mean, I had a basement apartment, and I had no furniture. So what that means is that, man, we go there and train when the school's not in session, come down to the apartment, and let's train, man.
That's great.
And that's the way it was. So it was fun.
Yeah. And where did it go from there for you? I mean, first of all, not a whole lot of people get to experience the first UFC, so that's really cool that you were there. And that group sounds like a really tight-knit group with a lot of camaraderie, so very cool. Take us from there until today.
Well, I would have to talk about the opportunity that I had within the academy to teach a class. So all of a sudden, there's a class at 7 a.m. that the guy who's teaching it can no longer teach. And when they ask for volunteers, I put my hands so high up. It's like, man, please pick me. I'll do it for free. No problem. I knew there was a great opportunity. So I started teaching at 7 a.m. And, when somebody asked a question and for a split second, you're panicked because you don't know if you know the answer. And then you realize you do. And when you answer that question, this guy's like, oh, man, that's great. That, for me, became a drug. And for me, I knew from that moment that, man, I want to do this forever. I didn't know that I was going to make it my profession, but I knew that I wanted to do that. I wanted to help people. I wanted to teach. And knowing that when you teach, you learn as well, then, man, what great way to become good at it.
It's true.
Than to help other people, get good at it. So
it's one thing to know it for yourself, but it's a higher level, a higher calling, if you will, when you get that bug and want to impact other people.
Right. Yeah.
Awesome.
So it was great. That's how it started. Then, let's see, in 2004, I had asked for a transfer to leave Salt Lake and come to Georgia. And when I got the call, that's a story in itself because I got a call with a job offer. But I had to start in 10 days. And I have a house, in Utah, and I'm like, man, 10 days, that's very little time. When do I have to let you know? And the guy goes, right now. I'm like, oh, wow, man,
Nothing like pressure.
So the guy tells me, he goes, I tell you what, man. He goes, I'm off in 2 hours. If I hear from you within 2 hours, the job's yours. If not, then I'm just going to give it to somebody else. And so in the next hour and a half, man, I started making phone calls. And, man, I called the guy back, took the job. That was August 13th when that call took place. August 18th, I was awarded my black belt from Professor Sauer. That was August 18th, 2004. And August 19th, the next day, I was driving at 6:30 in the morning to Georgia to start a new life. And so that was, that was August of 1993. By November of 1993, I already had a little school that I started teaching at. And the rest is history. I've been here ever since.
That's
and
great.
Been teaching. And I just went through the instructor certification program.
Let's talk about that. So you were going along for a number of years, doing well. You have your own academy. You're teaching. And then I met you last summer out at the Gracie Academy, and you were going through the ICP. So what led you to do that, to pursue that and complete that? And what was that experience like for you?
Well, let me just tell you right off the bat, the experience was incredible. But how it led to it, it started at the very beginning. Because Horion was the man. He's the guy that showed you the techniques. He had all the videos. That Gracie in action tape that I talked about, it was produced by those guys. So I knew the level of instructorship. I knew that Helio Gracie endorsed him as an instructor, but not only as an instructor, but as the only instructor that could certify instructors. So imagine when Pedro Sauer announces that the doors open for us to become certified with the Gracie Academy and still be part of the Pedro Sauer Association. For me, that was a no-brainer. So I jumped and I went through the process. The process was very hard, man. It was very hard, and I almost didn't make it. And after I went through it, I got on a video and I basically said, you know what? I thought that I knew how to teach. I actually said the words, we thought we knew how to teach, and I'll stand by them. I really thought I did, and I actually did. Except this program, it blew my mind of how little I actually knew. And so now I'm trying to, I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not the best at it, but I am the most persistent. So I am completely dedicated to just get better at it, and it is working. Man, the vibe of the school is incredible. The motivation, the excitement, how clear the path is. I don't know how it was when you started, but when I started, you didn't know what was going to be covered that night.
Yeah.
There was no curriculum. How do I get a blue belt? Well, I don't know. You just keep training. And one day I got a pat on my shoulder. My friend, you're a blue belt. That's how I got my blue belt. And I was a blue belt for 6 years of constant training. I never took a break. The longest time that I was outside the mat was 1 month, where I kind of hurt my ribs. And even in that month, I still would show up to the academy. So 6 years later, I was promoted to purple belt in a surprise move, but there was no rhyme or reason. I don't know what I did to deserve it. All I did was show up and train and never quit.
You're persistent.
That's what it was.
Right.
Now, the first test I ever took was my brown belt, except nobody knew that there was a test. So Pedro Sauer comes to me and he goes, hey, I want you to test for a brown belt. I'm like, what test? You never said there was a test. And I'm thinking, you know what? I thought to myself, if I fail that test, first of all, it's not going to be my fault because nobody ever told me there was a test. Of course, I didn't fail. But the idea, is that there was no clear path. Now, with Gracie combatives, it's an excellent way for somebody that doesn't know, but even if you do know, but especially if you don't know any jiu-jitsu at all or any martial arts, it's a perfect way to get started because the whole path is laid in front of you. You know precisely what to do and how to do it. And this is the other part. If you're a black belt in jiu-jitsu and your black belt and your jiu-jitsu is mainly sportive jiu-jitsu, you can come to my academy. I don't care who you are. You can come to this academy and you could decide, I want to be certified in combatives and do that. And once you are certified, that means that you're able to deal with a self-defense scenario with the most common situations that happen in a fight and know that your technique is sound. And then if you couple that with going through the instructor certification program, now you can be certified to teach that program to other people. And that's precisely what I'm doing right now.
I admire not only you, but a lot of the people that I've come in contact with that were already well versed in jiu-jitsu, high level in jiu-jitsu, and great instructors in their own right, but have the openness of mind to decide there's something else for them and went to the ICP and, even if it elevated their teaching 10% or embrace that curriculum that makes it easier for a brand new beginner to, come into jiu-jitsu. The openness of mind to embrace that, I really think is really great because a lot of people don't do that, which is certainly their right. But I know not everybody you've been in contact with has embraced the alignment of Master Sauer and the Academy, and certainly not asking you to name any names, but I'm sure you know some people like that. What do you say to them who just haven't really got on board or don't see the benefit of that?
I think some of the the issues, some of the instructors might feel that they don't want to lose that personality, the flavor that you bring to the technique. And with a program like Gracie Combatives, not only is the content precise, but you have to teach it in a certain way. So I get that part. The good news is that's just the beginner program. Once you go through the beginner program, now what you've done is you've taken somebody and you've babied him or her with these techniques and this approach. And now when this person comes into the more advanced program, now you can do your thing. You can follow Pedro Sauer's curriculum. You could follow any curriculum. Because at that point, it becomes gathering information and making that information part of your arsenal. And that's it. And for me, it was very easy. Look, the way I went about this is very simple. I'm going to go through it. And at the end, if I'm not happy, then I'll just leave.
Right.
Who cares, right?
Give it a try, right?
What's the worst that can happen? That I learn from the grandkids of Helio Gracie? So how bad is that? Man, that's amazing. Those guys are incredible. So for me, it was a no-brainer. Oh, that you have to spend so much money. Well, let me tell you, how much is knowledge worth to you? So for me, the amount of money that I spent to go through the ICP, I told the guy, look, if I fail, I already got my money's worth. I already did. Wow. So, and I'm being completely honest because I love what I do, and what I learned made me do it better. But not just better, just a lot better. Wow. So that's it. And now, the other thing that people were concerned is, well, now you have to pay these guys every month. And yeah, man, you have to pay. And I'm going to tell you, it ain't cheap, but it is worth it. And now this is the other thing. I have people coming in all the time. And so how much is it worth? Well, a few more students. And you're getting them, and they're staying. And they're staying because you're telling them ahead of time what the expectations are. This is what you can expect from me as an instructor and the program, and this is what we're going to expect from you. We expect that you come here, we're going to give you the tools, man. You're going to go to Gracie University, log in, see the techniques, and you can expect, man, to come here, and the mats are going to be clean, and you're going to be learning, and we're going to give you more than just what you see in the videos, because then it's not even worth it if I don't. Right. So you're going to get more, and then little by little we're going to build you, and then when you're ready, we're going to test you out, and then we're going to put you into the advanced program. Right. So and then those guys that were worried about, man, losing my personality and losing what I teach. Well, you don't, because now you get to teach someone who now knows how to defend himself or herself, and now you can teach them your program. Yes. So I if anybody who's listening to this, if you're a black belt and you're already teaching and you have your own, consider it. Give me a call. I'll tell you all about it. And the worst thing that could happen is that you learn something new and you spend some money learning it. And my idea is if you are a person that wants to gather knowledge, then how much is the knowledge worth to you? That's it.
That's a great point. I love how you were just using the hands.
That doesn't read for the podcast.
I know, but still. So while we were training just a few minutes ago, we took a break and we started talking, and I said, I'm at a point, probably should have been a long time ago, but I'm at a point now where I really want to focus on being the best I can at defense and solid. And I gave that lip service for a long time, but didn't really, put it first. Like many other people, I wanted the latest or the newest submission and wanted a new way to submit people. But I really want to develop a lot more comfort and confidence in being in bad positions and being safe. And you started talking about that and even started talking about hoisting against Matt Hughes. So share a little bit about those thoughts. I
watched Royce Gracie fight one of the toughest guys ever in the octagon. And this is one of the first times when I saw in horror. And I felt really bad, man, of seeing how, man, that was such a tough fight to watch. But what I noticed and what I was so impressed by is Royce's demeanor in that fight. Matt Hughes was doing all these things. He's using jiu-jitsu. He went to his back. But when you look at Royce's demeanor in that fight, you see pure calm. You didn't see somebody that was freaked out. You saw somebody that understood that his only way out of that situation was to be able to keep a composure and to be able to deal with the problem. Now, he was not able to do it. He lost that fight. But that doesn't mean that the process is wrong. That's the process is, before you solve that problem, and you have a huge problem in front of you, is you have to be able to remain calm and solve the problem as it goes. And that's what jiu-jitsu teaches you. First, we're learning it in a physical way on the mat. And how do you get good at defense? Man, you got to get some beatings. When you're training with Pedro Sauer every day, which is what I did, I was able to see so many options. I saw so many ways that I could be submitted. And I spent so much time on the bottom with my other training partners that all of a sudden I became very comfortable. And even though I could not escape, at one point, my partners couldn't tap me as easily anymore. And so you develop, I know that demeanor that Hughes had came from the many beatings that he took from his brothers. And of course, he had the best instructors. So that really had an impact on me. So imagine that, that's what I remember most about that fight is actually how Hughes handled it and his demeanor through it. So I was very impressed.
Very impressed. And you talked about how, as you've adopted that, how you see how that goes beyond just on the mat.
Oh, definitely. Every confrontation, every time that you speak to somebody, every time you go to a store and maybe the person behind the desk is not nice to you, you get to practice your techniques. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You get to practice keep your composure, avoid the fight, try to get the person to your side. Try to make him, make a mistake and maybe get a deal out of it. Try to make a new friend, whatever it is. I stopped by one of these convenience stores last night, and this guy, these guys that work, on those shifts, midnight, this guy seemed like a really interesting guy, and at one point I went to grab what I was buying, and he goes, no, don't touch it. You're going to F it up. And I'm like, and I immediately, knew that, man, this guy is not like the best customer service, right. but it's the hour of the day, it's almost midnight, this is me commuting home. And it was just very funny, So all these little scenarios that happen in life, I feel that jiu-jitsu gives you the tools to handle them in a much better way. And now, and this is something that, you look at somebody like Pedro Sauer, you look at somebody like Hiron and Henner, man, these guys are examples on and off the mat. And they use jiu-jitsu not only on the mat, but outside, and you see it. When people were giving Hiron and Henner a hard time because they had a blue belt kid teaching, they actually got more students from that by the way they handled it. So who's the joke on,
Right.
Man, so are you really using jiu-jitsu? Now we're using jiu-jitsu to teach. We're using the strategy of jiu-jitsu to teach jiu-jitsu to new people. So now you start seeing the whole world as a mat.
That's great.
So Pedro Sauer, he has 5 daughters, and the last one, the youngest one, was delivered in the bathroom. And when Hickson asked him, how did you do that? And Pedro said, jiu-jitsu. I use jiu-jitsu.
That's
well,
awesome.
he didn't arm lock.
Right.
He didn't put a choke,
right.
but he knew, man, he had to chill out.
Calm
he had to get the pillow.
Yes.
He had to, hey, everything's going to be fine, And now, little by little, step by step, you solve the problem, and now everything's good.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's
so
what it's
cool,
about.
Man. There's so much to learn in jiu-jitsu, so many layers. It's a lifetime of study. But when you take it beyond the mat of the academy and make the mat your whole world, like you said, that's where you're.
Now I have to say, I am not an expert at that. I'm just telling you, I understand it.
Sure.
I'm still trying to apply it, man, and it's not easy. Yeah. But the idea is, man, you're not going to be perfect. It's just like this ICP thing. I'm not going to be perfect at the beginning, but I will tell you this, and I will tell those guys that I'm committed to just getting better, and so eventually it will work.
That's all
you can ask, and I think for jiu-jitsu should be the same. You should not ever compare yourself to other people, but trust, man. If I can get a black belt in jiu-jitsu, anybody can, because I'm small, I'm old, and I'm not very coordinated. But I enjoy it. I enjoy the friendships that you make, and if you don't quit, then you're just gonna get it. You're just gonna get it. You just gotta come in, get on the mat, have fun, tap a whole bunch. And try to learn every time you tap. That's it.
Back to that perseverance you mentioned earlier. That's right. So what about when you're not on the mat? I know it takes a lot of time teaching as well as running an academy. Do you have any other hobbies that you even have time to do?
I used to. Right now I'm very busy with this whole thing. I'm learning so much. And running a school, I need to learn how to delegate more because I do everything as it is now. But things are going well. I'm looking to find a bigger place and make things better. But I love music. I love listening to live music. Anytime I have a chance to see a concert, to play. I also play guitar a little bit.
Nice.
My family is all musical family. So I would say music is one of my hobbies. And then when the wife says fix this, fix that. Then, I got to get my toolbox
and that's your hobby.
and start fixing stuff. I'm working on a deck right now.
Yeah.
And you just watch the YouTube videos, you ask questions, and then you try your best.
Oh, man.
It's
Take
the way
it
it
by
is.
the horns, right?
Yeah.
What's your wife's name?
Elaine.
All right.
Yeah, Elaine.
How long you guys been married?
It's 4 years.
Okay.
4 years. I remember it was February. It's February 1st.
All
It's our
right.
anniversary.
Good
so
that you remember.
I don't remember the year, but I remember the
Any
date.
kids?
We have 2 kids.
Okay. Awesome.
A 21-year-old, and they're my stepkids,
Uh-huh.
and a 16-year-old girl.
Excellent. So you've learned a lot over the years, obviously, having gone through and been involved in jiu-jitsu and under Master Sauer for so long, and to achieve third-degree black belt.
Mm-hmm.
Remarkable. Anything that stands out? I know you've got a lot of things you could share that you've learned, but any lessons besides what you shared a minute ago about just relaxing through like the calm through the chaos? Any other important lessons you feel like stand out that you could share?
Well, one of them I learned from Hickson, and now I'm very excited about listening to one of the next podcasts that you have for the breathing, because breathing becomes a very important thing, not only for you to use it in jiu-jitsu when you're training, when you're going against a guy that's very heavy and very tough and very technical. If you breathe the right way, you're going to have extra gas in your tank. But that breathing also helps you in dealing with that guy behind the counter.
Yes.
So I would say breathing, has been one of the things that have been very, very important to me. And then you've been around Pedro Sauer. Pedro Sauer is a very wise guy. And when he starts talking, you can not help but just listen and enjoy the ride. And so you always get these nuggets. And it's all lined up with the Gracie philosophy of doing more with less, of being efficient, of being observative, of seeing the problem for what it is, and then just little by little solving it. And then also about personal relationships. A lot of times your expectations are too high. And when people fail on those expectations, now you have people that are disappointed or angry or whatever. And that's one of the things that Pedro Sauer told me a long time ago. He goes, man, I learned from my mom, don't have big expectations from anyone. And if they disappoint you, then you won't be disappointed because there was no expectation,
Right.
And if they don't disappoint you, then man, it's great.
Yes.
If they do something great, then it's great. So yeah, I've learned a lot from my own parents, and a lot of the things that they taught me, I relearned through jiu-jitsu. So it's been 2 separate sources giving you the same information, which is be a good person, treat others the way you want to be treated. Don't talk about people behind their back unless they're present. You can talk about them in present.
Right.
If they're not in front of you, only say nice things. And that will make your life a lot easier. You'll have a lot more friends.
Yes.
And it's just a lighter existence. And that's one of the things that I really appreciate about the Gracie Academy, Hiron and Henner, the vibe that you feel at their school when you go to Torrance. This is what I'm trying to match. Everything is positive. It's a great environment to learn. And man, that's it. You just go hang out with your friends, learn a few new things, and then repeat tomorrow.
Right.
And keep your body in shape, keep your body, take care of yourself, get a massage, get in the jacuzzi, and go again tomorrow,
Absolutely.
So that's the idea.
Those are some great words and thoughts. Some great life lessons, like you said, from 2 different sources, but they kind of merged in those life lessons. And I think it's not emphasized as much as I would like to see it these days. I don't want to seem like the grumpy old man who's saying kids these days. But, as a general rule, you don't see that as much anymore about, just be kind to people. Don't talk behind their back, just basic kindness throughout, so.
Yeah, and it's good to learn, but it's also good to discover. If I just plant the seed and I say, man, there's so many parallels in jiu-jitsu and life, now I just leave you with that. And now think about it. Go home and now think about what happened, man. You were driving and now you got a flat tire. And now you're going to be late to work and now you got to deal with the tire. Well, there's one way to deal with it and there's one way not to deal with it. How are you going to deal with it? How can you have your jiu-jitsu help you deal with that situation, right? And then now once you go to your job and now your boss is angry at you because you were late. So, and sometimes when you get hurt, Like if you get hurt, you could say, well, man, I don't get to train jiu-jitsu. Or you could say, man, and now I get to see jiu-jitsu in a different light. Let's see what problems I can solve now that I don't have this. Let me see what I can do with it. And that's how that's how Henner came up with this whole program.
That's cool.
Well, he was, I think he had a bad back or something like that. But yeah, man, there's so many parallels. And the self, when you find these things by yourself, they become more meaningful. You just need an instructor like Pedro Sauer to say, hey, you know, it's like life. Jiu-jitsu is like life. You solve problems in life with jiu-jitsu. Now, I'll just leave you with that. Let the machine go now. And now figure it out for yourself. And ask questions and be curious and be, you know.
That's great.
And don't be afraid to fail, man. Don't be afraid to fail because you will fail.
That's huge.
That's it.
Failure's a part of it, part of the development. I like how the example with the flat tire and then the boss, because either way you're going to have to deal with the tire. You're going to have to physically deal with it. But how you're framing it, how you're seeing it, that perspective makes all the difference of that experience in the world, right?
Yeah.
You're still going to have to take the time and do it, but you could do it with a lot more positive or a total let it ruin your day, this is the worst thing that ever could happen. Then you get to work and your boss is angry. You could let that just fuel it even further. This is the worst, I hate my life. Or you could kind of dance with it, use jiu-jitsu and
that's the goal.
A different experience.
And that's the goal. And you know, and it's your journey and it's your path, and you just make it your own. Right. And if you have some good stories about it, share them. If you don't, it's okay. Make some. You know, next time that you go to the place where you think, man, every time I come here, they don't treat me very nice. Let's do an experiment, and now let's see if we use a different approach. It's just like jiu-jitsu, man. The guy tapped me with an arm bar, man. I'm not going to give him the arm. Oh, now he took the choke. You know,
exactly.
That was me training with Pedro Sauer. And now you learn. Now, we were talking about this earlier too, which is now that you've been tapped so many different times, now you're able to relax a little bit more because now you know what to expect, right? And that ability to stay with composure, which is what I was talking about earlier about Hobbies, is what allows you to solve the problem eventually once you have all the tools. So, man, it's a great journey. And I just look forward to get more people here and, you know, develop some people that can do the same later on.
Well, you certainly had a big impact on people so far. Before we close, anybody you want to shout out to or thank or anything like that?
Man, I want to thank Pedro Sauer, of course, man, my instructor, and Hiron and Henner, man. Those guys have opened my eyes in a lot of things. And, of course, all my training partners from the past, man. So many to remember them all, but the guy that got me into it, David Suliafu, man, he's still training, I believe, in Salt Lake. I haven't talked to him for a long time. And then my friends, man, you know, Alan Hopkins, Jake Johnston, Sean Weaver, man, he's passed on, you know, but so many training partners that were there, Will Bernales from Salt Lake, Eddie Edmonds, you know, Leon Baker, man, all those guys, some good stories, so many stories, man. It was a great time back in the 90s, and you know, we're all still at it today. So, and the Gracie family, you know, I think Elio Gracie changed the world, and I'm just trying to not only, you know, learn and become better at it, but helping other people do it. So that's about it.
Absolutely, you got my respect. I want to thank you for taking time. Thank you for the private. It was incredible.
No problem.
What an awesome instructor. If anybody's in this area of Georgia, remind me the
Sharpsburg, Noonan, Peachtree
Georgia.
City,
Noonan,
south
Peachtree
of the
City.
airport. We're about 25 miles south of the airport. How was the drive?
It was awesome. It was great. Luckily, I didn't run into too much traffic for this time or this area. But if you're in this area, I definitely think come check out those classes. Get a private if you can. You won't regret it. And I want to thank you for taking the time to allow us to have a glimpse into your life and your journey, and we really appreciate it. Keep changing lives, my friend.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Okay, really enjoyed that interview with Professor Jorge. He's such a knowledgeable person and exudes such a warm, friendly energy. It's just really great to be around him. So again, if you ever had the chance to train with him, I urge you to do so. You certainly won't regret it. So thank you to Professor Jorge for the training as well as the interview. Okay, moving on to our Make a Difference, Make an Impact segment. And again, our guest host today will be Howard Steele.
What's up, guys? It's me, Howard Steele, back with another Make a Difference, Make an Impact segment. Guys, I have a question for you. Who can you count on above all else? Who can you share your secrets with? Good, bad, your dreams and failures. Who always knows the truth? Always knows the real deal. If you said, me, H, I can count on me, I'd say you're absolutely right. But what if I told you that you are the person standing in your own way, standing in the way of relationship bliss, financial fulfillment, goal crushing, and even health? Yep, that's right. What we tell ourselves repeatedly, we believe. And what we believe about ourselves eventually is who we become, our identity. And then, that's our identity, and all the choices and decisions that we make are based from that identity. Who are we? How would they choose? How would they decide? You understand what I'm saying? Dr. Phil McGraw refers to this self-talk as tapes because usually we loop them over and over in our mind, focusing mainly on the negative past experiences and anxiety over possible future negativity. Tony Robbins, world-renowned self-help guide, refers to these as stories or limiting beliefs. I can't have a relationship that's meaningful. They're just going to end up leaving me anyway. How would you manage a relationship if you were repeating this over and over in your mind? How would someone destined to be alone answer or decide difficult relationship questions? Are you following me? My parents never had money. I've never had money. As a matter of fact, I'm horrible with money. If you repeat it, you believe it. And if you believe it, yep, that's right, it's who you become. And if you're the guy or girl that's horrible with money, how do you think you'll continue to decide? Like Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, the richest people in the world, worth about $80 billion, that's billion with a B, or MC Hammer, who in 1991 was worth $33 million and only 5 years later, in 1996, filed bankruptcy. I think you get the picture. All right, enough with the negative talk. Let's switch gears. The cool thing is that if it works for negative, guess what? It works the opposite too. Positive self-talk or affirmation is a powerful tool. If you tell yourself stories like, I have a healthy relationship with money, I can save, earn, and spend responsibly, and I can use money for good, or I'm kind to those around me, the sun is shining, and I'm happy to be alive, versus people hate me, there's a black cloud following me around, I wish I was dead. Oh, and by the way, I suck at money. Can you see the effect that would have on how you navigate through life and your day-to-day? Okay, friends, let's wrap it up. Here's your assignment. I want you to analyze your self-talk and limiting beliefs. Write them down and then reframe them, meaning write them in a positive way. Make these reframes your positive affirmations and repeat them to yourself daily. Make up a routine. For instance, every morning in the shower, repeat to yourself your positive affirmations. You will be amazed at how your outlook on life changes and how you start to navigate life's questions from a more different and more positive point of view. Well, that's it for now. Hope to talk to you again soon. But until then, go forth and be awesome.
And that's going to do it for this edition of the show. As always, I thank you for listening. I appreciate all feedback, so if you have feedback, please don't hesitate to give it. If you have ideas for the show or for guests, please let me know about those. You can leave feedback on the website at www.graciejujitsurocks.com. You can also leave feedback on iTunes, and while you're there, make sure to rate the show. It helps us with our standing in iTunes. If you haven't liked us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter, please go ahead and do that. And don't forget to share the episodes on your Facebook and social media. Again, thanks again for listening, and until next time, this is Marty Josie, and I'll see you on the mat.